Hello, everybody. Celia Waterhouse here. Thank you for joining us at OnPoint Mentors. Today we have Sebastian Landa Zorilla. And
Hello. Hi.
hi, Sebastian. Sebastian calls himself a physical empowerment and certainty development specialist here. And Sebastian, we had a lovely interview not too long ago, and I so enjoyed it. And I hope those of you listening, go check it out in our Facebook group.
It was good.
But
It was good.
It was fun. It was fun. Today, Sebastian, I've got one question only for you, okay? And that question is, if you could share just one piece of advice on how, are you there? Oh yeah, you froze for a second. Okay, here it is again.
I'm here. I was paying close attention.
Oh, if you could share one piece of advice on how you help your clients manage their emotions in this divisive world that we're living in right now with everything going on, what advice do you give your clients?
There is always something to be grateful for. There's always something to be grateful for. So finding specifically the path in your mind, finding the way to be grateful for the moment that you're living and being grateful for the experience that you're living. Whatever is challenging you, whatever is causing you to have a disequilibrated, perception, which is what is ultimately causing you to have an emotion. When you can find the way to be grateful for what you're living, because there is so much stuff that you can apply, right? There you can look into breathing. There are tons of therapies. There is tons of consultants and consultations going on, and I'm sure there's so many techniques to simply equilibrate your perception and have more poise, centeredness, gratitude, certainty, presence, unconditional love, and gratitude. But I mean, putting me on the spot and saying, hey, what's a tip that you would say to anybody, to manage their emotions? I would say find the way to be grateful for whatever it is that you're perceiving and that you're living through, because there's always something to be grateful for. It doesn't matter if you're suicidal and you're depressed and you're going through a very, very dark chapter in your life. There is always something to be grateful for. There is always something to be grateful for. And sometimes it can be the smallest of details, like the fact that you have somewhere to sleep, or the fact that nobody's bothering you in your sleep. Maybe it could be that. There's just so many little details. And when we take the time to count our blessings and to count all those little details, that's when it starts to change. That's when the perception that we used to have starts to change. And it really all comes down to having just the time to dedicate that attention to those little details that you can be grateful for. And when you can count your blessings, you get more blessings to count. And I think that is incredibly profound, because tough times always pass, but tough people, they last, So it's important to the mindset of a champion, the way that I like to look at it. The mindset of a champion at life is someone that can be grateful, someone that can have the strength of heart, the strength of character to love and to be grateful for everything that life has to offer, because it's very important to remember that if you're dead, you don't even get the privilege to feel pain. You don't even get the privilege to feel pain. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be alive. There is so many sperms that you literally won against. There's just the probabilities, they're so slim. the fact that you're alive is a blessing within itself. And sometimes we don't get that. We don't understand that to the full extent. And, I had a close to death experience, and I was talking with the skull, I was talking with the skull maybe 13 weeks ago on a skydiving accident. And I remember going to experience and recognizing that, I get to feel pain. It's a privilege to get to feel pain. And I think that pain or pleasure, it can both disequilibrate us. It's not always just painful. Sometimes we're very ecstatic and we're even addicted to feeling pleasure all the time. But there's always something to be grateful for that can equilibrate us back into the moment. And I think that that's what life's humbling circumstances sometimes teach us. It's sometimes life takes everything away from us just so that we can be grateful for what we still have. And I think that's what that's where true wealth lies. They say wealth is not what you have. Wealth is what you're left with when everything is taken away from you. So when we have that capacity to give thanks, that's when we open ourselves to receive more. And when we're emotionally disequilibrated, when we can take the time to breathe, that's definitely, you all said one piece of advice, right? But that'd be the second piece of advice that I would give anybody. Breathe through everything that you're living through. If there's anything in life worth mastering, it's your breath. It's the number one thing that you do the most amount of time while you're alive. And you only get a limited amount of breaths before dying. So make each one count. You see what I'm saying? So when you have that gratitude for the breath, having gratitude that you get to breathe, having gratitude that you get to open your eyes and see, that you get to hear, that you get to taste, that you get to feel, that is something that when you begin to see clearly, you begin to recognize that life is so amazing, independently of whatever it is that you're living, that you're a human being living through a human experience, and that within itself is a blessing. And when we breathe, we can breathe it all in, right? When we breathe, our nervous system begins to regulate itself. When we breathe, that's when our intuition begins to see all the different governing factors that are playing in the contextual situation that we find ourselves in, and that's what causes us to evolve and have a greater emotional intelligence. And there's so many methods, but when we breathe and we can find the way to be grateful, we can begin to focus and hone in, and that's when the meditation, all the focus, all the concentration, the mindfulness factor of your emotional intelligence comes into play. And
so Sebastian, I have a question, because I'm so grateful to have you on our OnPoint Mentors team, because you are a young adult, and many mentors of ours are usually a little older. So I like having someone in your age group who can really relate to others. You've got a law degree, a university degree, and there are a lot of university students out there. And I know we talked about it a little bit more at length at the last interview, and you put out such wisdom for your age. I was like, wow, I really need to get you more involved with helping that age group. But what is the common struggle that young adults face in their emotions right now, and why is it so divided? And would you give the same advice?
The number one thing is lack of patience. It's lack of patience. There's just so much time. You do have a limited amount of breaths, but at the same time, it's a good amount. And I think that it's just the lack of patience that so many people have cause them to act impulsively. I think that it's a time to when you're young. I think that it's the most beautiful moment to think long term, and it's the most fundamental moment of your life because it's when you're building the foundations of who you are psychologically, your character, your grit, how you decide to responsibly relate with yourself, what relationship you decide to have with yourself. And there's just so much lack of accountability at that age because adults are still like, whatever, you don't have to do anything, you'll get older, and so then that's when you'll be held accountable. And I think that's not like, I think that it's important for kids to be and kids from a very young age to be held accountable. Just hold yourself accountable. You want to have fun? That's great. It's time to have fun. Sure, go explore and do your life, but hold yourself accountable to your perceptions, your decisions, your actions, and your consequences, the consequences of your actions. Hold yourself accountable to that. Hold yourself accountable to what you're proposing for yourself. You have dreams, hold your dreams accountable. Hold yourself accountable to your dreams. It's a time to. I think that's the problem. The problem is that there's so many young kids that are dreaming of having a beautiful and amazing life. They're not holding themselves accountable, and so they feel that they are impulsive and they're lacking patience, and so that's when all the emotional, I need to find an answer, let's look for immediate gratification behavior happens, So, and you're never going to find the answers, being drugged out of your mind. You're never going to find the answers, in a chaotic space. Maybe you're going to find the answers because you're going to recognize it. You're going to recognize that you're in the hole. Maybe like you're going to get the answers because you're going to all of a sudden wake up someplace that you don't know where you are, and you get a life lesson that you just recognize that you acted out of impulse and you were incredibly immature and irresponsible for your own well-being. Maybe that's the wake-up call. But I wouldn't. I mean, people have to live that sometimes. People live that at any point in time. But I think that it's that. I think holding yourself accountable.
Great advice, Sebastian. And for those of you who didn't see our interview a while ago, go check it out on OnPoint Mentors, Ask a Mentors group. It was fascinating. Sebastian, thank you for joining us on the summit.
Thank you.
We will see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
You too.